I'm Rick Mann, and welcome to this segment on the Trevecca Modified APA Style Guide. As we look at this Modified Style Guide, we want to begin by asking the questions, why APA? Then we want to ask ourselves, why modify APA? And then lastly, we want to walk through the Modified APA Guidelines. There's really three primary reasons why we use the APA. First, many industries have compliance standards that guide their work. And in academics, style guides provide a consistent framework for this work. Second, it's imperative that when writers use the work of others, they give credit for that. If you are quoting others, if you are paraphrasing others' work, it's important that you give credit for that work. And third, we want to realize that readers and research often want to find out where did those paraphrases and where did those quotations come from. And APA, the formatting of that, the framework of that, provides an address of where you can find that work. Lastly, we can't emphasize enough that if you use other people's work and you don't cite it and references it, you're describing this work as your own. We call this academic plagiarism, academic dishonesty, or we call this cheating. And this will typically lead to the failure for the assignment, the course, and the program. We can't emphasize this enough. Next, some people might ask, why a modified APA style guide? Why not just use the APA publication manual? Well, the reason is it's 272 pages, it's single-spaced, it's very detailed. In fact, there's a second volume called Electronic References, and it can be overwhelming for more basic graduate students. So we've provided this modified APA style guide, which focuses on really three things: general features, QCRs, and headings. Oh yes, and then a warning about Wikipedia. The general features of an APA document are pretty simple. A regular 12-point font, nothing fancy, 8.5 by 11 legal paper with 1-inch margins. Every line is double-spaced. This is a little bit tricky because sometimes word processors will add extra points before or after the paragraphs. We look for true double spacing all the way throughout. The pages should be numbered. You should have a title page that has the course and section number, like BUS 6000-18-58, whatever your cohort or section number is, the professor's name, the student's name, and the date. And yes, you don't have to use APA required running heads. They use it. We keep it simple. We don't. At the core of an APA document is the use of quotation, citation, and references, or what I call QCRs. What you do is when you want to use someone else's exact words, we call this a quotation, goes in quotation marks. A citation is an in-text notation of where this material is found, and then the reference is what you see at the end. And there's a link between the quotation, citation, and references. This is called QCR. When you don't use the proper QCRs, this can result in academic plagiarism, which is a major offense. And it occurs when material is not properly cited and referenced. The first thing we want to do when we understand QCRs is understanding the difference between a quotation and a paraphrase. A paraphrase work is when you take somebody else's work and you rewrite it in your own words. You want to make reference to it, you want to cite it, but it's not quoted material. Quotations are the exact words of others, and we'll use the general rule of 5. In other words, if you use 5 or more words from somebody else's exact sentences, you need to quote it. We're going to begin here with a book paraphrase. So we use this example from Cotter. Cotter 2012 suggests that most operational teams do not have the capacity or expertise to develop strong strategic processes. Now you notice there's no quotation marks here because it's not a quote. It's just a paraphrase. It's restating Cotter's work from his 2012 book, Leading Change. So we see the in-text citation here, Cotter 2012, and then at the bottom we can find the reference. Cotter's book in 2012 is entitled Leading Change. This is a paraphrase, not a quotation. That's why we don't have the page number, because it's a paraphrase. Next, we're going to look at a book quotation. and a true QCR, quotation, citation, reference. You'll notice here that in the paragraph we wrote, in this day and age there are more and more blah blah blah. You can read it here. Then we say the author writes that, and then this is a quotation, examining how companies can be more profitable by doing the right thing. You notice this is an exact quote, that's why it's in quotation marks. What we see after that then is a citation. An easy place to start with citation has three things. Has a name, usually the author name, has a year, and it has a page number. So these three things, author, year, and number, those are the three things you want to keep in mind. These are typically, in 4 out of 5 cases, are the three required things in an in-text citation. Now let's go into a little bit more detail with your in-text citation. Notice that we read, doing the right thing, quotation mark, no period. Doing the right thing, quotation mark, space, parenthesis, Savitz, comma, space, 2006, comma, space, P, period, space, 109, parenthesis, period, space. Notice that they're using the right spacing here is important. Spacing after quotation mark, space after the first comma, after the second comma, and after the P, period, space, and after the final period, space. Make sure you get this just as it's noted. Every in-text citation needs to have a reference at the end to which it's tied. So we see here the reference at the end. It has author first initial, year, title of the book, the city and state, and the publisher. So let's review this again. Author Savitz, comma, space, first initial, period, space, parenthesis, year, parenthesis, period, space. The triple bottom line, that's the title of the book. It's in italics. Notice only the first letter is capitalized. Period, space. San Francisco is the city, comma, space, 2 letters for the state, colon, space. Josie Bass is the publisher, period. This is a very simple example of a QCR from a book. Quotation from a book in quotation marks. Then the in-text citation comes after that, the author, the year, and the page number. And at the end, you have the reference. You have the last name with the initial, 2006 the year, the title, the triple bottom line, the city and state, and the publisher, Josie Bass. One last time with every detail. Last name, comma, space, at first initial, period, space, parenthesis, year, parenthesis, period, space, the title of the book in italics with just the first letter capitalized, period, space, the city, comma, space, 2 letters for the state, colon, space, the name of the publisher, period. A web page QCR is very similar to a book QCR with a few differences. You'll see the in-text citation, you see the quotation and quotation marks, you see in the in-text citation author, year, and number. Author, year, and number. But the number doesn't come after a period, P period. It comes after a PARA period, which is short for paragraph. With web pages, you count down from the top the number of paragraphs. This isn't the second page. This is the second paragraph from the top. You'll also notice some difference in the references. Like before, you have the author, you have the year, and you have the title. But a few differences. The author and the first initial are the same. But not only do we have the year, but we also have a month and a day, because this website posting was on a particular date. It had a particular date, April 12th. 30 under 30, you'll notice this is the title. It's not in italics because it's an article title. It's not a book title. Book titles are in italicized, but article titles are not italicized and are not in quotes. You have a period. Then at the end, you just take the URL from the website and you say retrieved from, and then the website URL. If I click this HTTPS all the way to the end, if I click on that, copy that into my browser, I can find this web page. Sometimes you'll have a QCR where you have no author or a date for the citation or the reference. So I give an example here. you'll see the quotation in the paragraph. The title moves to the first position of the reference entry. That's the quote. It's in quotation marks. Now then you'll notice you don't have an author's name. So we use the article title in quotation marks. How do you reference? It's shortened because it's pretty long. So it's not the author name, it's the article name in quotation marks. Then instead of having a year, we have ND because there's no date on this website. Third, we have the paragraph number 1. So sometimes we have author, year, and page number, but sometimes we have article name instead of author name, no date instead of year, and we have para instead of page because it's a website. Here you see the reference for this. The article title is How Do You Reference a Web Page That Lists No Author? There is no date, there is no year, so we just do ND with periods. And then we have retrieve from and then the website. Pretty simple. Here we see some other QCR reference types. First of all, we have a book. Notice that we used this one earlier, that the first letter of the title is capitalized, not the others. And then we have two tricky ones. For an article, you'll have Cotter 2012. The name of the article is Accelerate. The name of the publication is Harvard Business Review, which is in italics. And at the end, you have the pages of that article. And then next, you have chapter in a book. You have like Porter 2011, What is Strategy? This is a chapter in the book. What's the book title? 10 HBR must-reads on strategy. That's why it's in italics. You have the page number where that's found, the city and state, as well as the publisher. And at the bottom, you have an article retrieved from an online source with a date, and notice the hanging indent. The hanging indent is where the first line sticks out to the left. Hopefully these are helpful. Here you can see the AP headings by level. Typically, you'll start off with a level 1, centered boldface, uppercase and lowercase headings in the middle of your page. Begin the text on the next line. Level 2 moves to the left, and you can see level 3 and level 4, the differences. We always want to remind our students that Wikipedia is not an appropriate academic site. Remember not to use it in any of your material, any of your quotations, paraphrase, any of your citations or references. This is always a good rule. If you're looking for some other resources on APA, one of the most popular sites is the Purdue Online Writing Lab, and you can go to that website and just type in APA in Google and you'll probably see it. Another site that you can go to is the apastyle.org site, as you can see listed here. I did want to mention that there are some citation programs and sites like the Citation Machine here that will automatically generate your APA citations if you type in the information. I would say these can be beneficial, but I would also say that they're not always perfect. At the end of the day, you're responsible for your APA citation accuracy and format, even if you use one of these external devices.